The modern world often feels like a collision of two equal and opposing powers, a visible struggle between a constructive goodness and an active, malicious force of evil. In the 11th century, Nasir Khosrow, a philosopher in the Ismaili tradition, argued that this perception of a two-sided war is a misunderstanding of how existence is built. In section 77 of his Khwan al-Akhawan, Khusraw addresses a persistent argument that for good to be a measurable reality, evil must exist as a real opposing point of comparison. If we can say one thing is better than another, the logic suggests there must be a tangible worst at the other end of the scale. Khusraw rejects this dualism. He describes existence as radiating from a single, uniform source called the universal intellect. This intellect is absolute goodness. It has no rival, no shadow, and no second. To explain the presence of bad things in a world of absolute good, Khusraw points to the work of a carpenter. When a carpenter builds a chair, the complete knowledge of the project is the chair itself, the intended, perfect result of the craftsman's mind. The pile of shavings on the floor is the unavoidable result of the perfect idea meeting the resistance of the material. These scraps are not anti-chairs or a rival creation. They are merely the byproduct of physical matter failing to fully hold the form of the carpenter's intent. Within this framework, evil is the inability of physical matter to contain the perfection of the intellect. It is a deficiency of the material, not an active power in its own right. Khusraw concludes that what we experience as evil is the cosmic friction of a world that is still being formed, the jagged edges where the material has not yet aligned with the design. This Persian cosmology finds an echo in Western thought through Plotinus and St. Augustine, who developed the concept of privatio boni. The concept is simple. The shadow is a void. Like blindness is the absence of sight, these thinkers argued that evil is a lack, a place where the light of the good has been blocked or has not yet reached. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. Your support really means a lot and helps me keep creating content for you all. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. While Khusraw used the logic of a carpenter, the poet Rumi later used the song of the reed to describe the emotional experience of being those wood shavings separated from the source. The cry of the reed flute is a song of displacement. Carved from the riverbank and separated from its root, the reed's music is the soul's homesickness for the original reed bed of the universal intellect. This linear journey, the idea of a soul returning to a singular, perfect origin, contrasts with the Taoist tradition of yin and yang. In this Taoist model, light and dark trade places in a continuous, eternal cycle. Here, the two forces are not a hierarchy to be escaped, but a necessary balance that sustains the natural order. Where Khusraw looks toward the ultimate triumph of a singular good, the Taoist looks for a way to live in harmony with the struggle itself. Despite these different methods, both traditions identify a central tension. We live in the gap between a perfect ideal and the actual, messy reality of our world. Khusraw's final proof in section 78 rests on the principle of the origin. Everything must eventually return to the state from which it began. If the beginning of all things was the pure good of the intellect, then the ultimate return must be a state entirely free of the defects of matter, a place without death, pain, or even the minor headaches of physical existence. This return functions like a gravitational pull. Just as these particles rise toward the sun, the soul is drawn back to its perfect original form. Applying this to our own lives changes the way we view failure. Personal mistakes or shortcomings are the wood shavings of our experience, the unavoidable byproduct of a consciousness trying to express itself through a limited physical medium. Modern life often feels like being buffeted by erratic noise and data. But if we possess an unchanging core, an extension of that original intellect, then the chaos of the world remains external. It is a turbulence that cannot alter the essential nature of the center. This shifts a person's outlook from one of constant combat to one of wholeness. It suggests that despite the friction of the present, the underlying trajectory of a life is aimed toward a state of completion. For Khusraw, the end of all things is a homecoming. The bad, the broken, and the incomplete are finally absorbed back into the goodness that first set them in motion. If we see evil as a measure of our distance from the source, then every act of understanding is a step toward closing that distance entirely.